All right, we are live.
All right, thanks, Eddie.
No problem.
I'll go ahead and call our special meeting to order.
Mr. Kelly,
Here.
Ms. Batchelor,
Here.
Mr. Freeman.
Here.
All right. Guess we'll do the pledge again. It doesn't hurt to do it twice, right? Bonnie, you want to lead us this time?
Here we go. We ready? I
Yep.
pledge allegiance to the
To the
flag
flag
of
of
the
the
United States of America and to the
and to the
republic
republic for which it stands,
one
one nation,
under
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alan, we were actually together at that.
I know, wasn't that cool?
time.
It was like a little duet.
I know.
Nick, you better crack the whip or you're going to lose control. You really are.
I know. I feel it slipping away.
I'd make a
Good
good
tell, bud.
song title, Alan, right? Slip, slip,
That's right.
and away.
Oh, I've lost it. All right. So we're going to start out with status of 2020 work plan. Loretta, I assume maybe you can lead us on this.
Yes, I had sent you, we had gone over the whole work plan, so I wasn't planning to do that again. But I had highlighted some items that are additions that I'll just briefly cover. It was on August the 10th that I think that I had given you this updated document. So once we just talk about some of these highlights, I wanted to see if you want me to go ahead and take the highlights off and add it to our website as I have the previous versions. And as always, this evolves on a regular basis, and we just periodically review it at least once a year, if not.
Do we have anything
more.
to throw up on the screen?
I do not. I apologize.
All right. I have your thing on my, so I'll go ahead and pull that up. I can't put it on the screen, but. All right.
I probably could, but I just didn't open the file yet.
Well, since we're not going over the whole plan, I guess we should be able to explain what the points of discussion are without having to.
Really, it's the same document you saw before, except with some.
I know I saw it, but the people that are on the call didn't see it, so I get that. But I could just go ahead with it. I've got it in front of me.
Okay, well, related to the community survey, we did have that launched. Eddie played a pivotal role in putting it all together and getting it out. So that was sent out this month, and there was over 200 responses to it. And I know that Eddie's summarizing that. That's something he can speak to more when we talk about any other items on the agenda. But that is something that had closed on August the 17th at this point, and we're moving forward with the results. And I think that we found the responses to be fairly consistent. The biggest change in the communication plan is the new Zoom meetings. So that has been a learning curve. Addie has definitely taken leadership on that. And I think while it's a challenge not to have people physically here for these meetings, I think it definitely also makes it more accessible to the public and more convenient. So that's something that's brand new for all of us. We also are getting proposals for updated AV equipment for the meeting room whenever we do return to that space, so that we will have updated ability to do our own video feeds and have better audio service when we do return to regular meeting formats. We will also be continuing to work on some new TIFs. We're keeping an eye on the properties that had been proposed for TIFs in the Amelia area, the Glen Mary, and the Pondview TIF, we're calling it, rather than the Premier TIF. So we're working with legal counsel on that. We just worked on the Prestwick TIF second phase this evening. We also have the closure of the Pierce Point TIF that will be considered on our September agenda, which allows us to transfer the balance into the general fund. There's also brand new legislation that is the Senate Bill 4 that we'll be talking more about tonight that will also permit us to use some of our existing TIF fund balances to fund road maintenance projects. So that can help supplement and move forward with some of our resurfacing that we need if the trustees choose to do that. On the Beckjord TIF, just to note that this year, earlier in the year, there were 2 parcels that Duke was improving a substation on. So we did file the DTEs because the Beckjord TIF is a springing TIF. So that's another step in that process. But until parcels develop, we won't be filing anything because the improvements won't make. And the clock starts basically when the improvements happen on those parcels. You've seen the first draft of the corridor study. It's being polished off and you'll be receiving an updated final draft soon. Obviously, Eddie's been working hard on zoning and adding the Amelia territory to our future planning. You've initiated the transitional residential zoning moratorium, and he is working with the zoning commission on that. We'll be considering future mixed use zoning overlays in future considerations, especially along the 125 corridor. We have the Learning Center under construction, obviously. We also have the Park Pass, and that is being managed by the county. There's the maintenance of the hike bike path, and John can speak to that in terms of additional repairs that we've been making in the Legendary Run area of the path. We did complete the tennis court and basketball court resurfacing. The street bids have gone out. We're just waiting for the contractor to get back to John with an actual start date. Beckjord Road is the primary road to be improved under that contract. The Jenny Lind improvement has been more or less completed. Bradbury Road, as I said, we're getting documents ready for bidding. We may bid this year and not be able to construct until next year, though, unless perhaps the water line construction may be able to proceed yet this year. We have upgraded I say it is absolutely the fire department has taken care of the alarm system that has been malfunctioning related to our sprinklers in the building. And they have upgraded and taken care of that and gotten a better contract at a lower price, as I understand it. And we've also been keeping an eye on our waste levy funds. And this year, obviously, Amelia was added to our aggregation contract of units. And this is the year that our police and fire union negotiation contracts will be expiring. The service department added their maintenance foreman position with the additional services being provided in the cemetery, as well as the new park improvements. And we continue to deal daily with the COVID impacts on operating plans, expenses, and the CARES Act and potential for reimbursements. So we're also looking at what might be eligible because there's been additional CARES Act funding. This just came up this week where we should be receiving again, about half again, as much as we've already received as an allocation for us to use toward improvements related to COVID impacts on our operation.
How much is that, Loretta?
Debbie needs to tell me how much we received so far. It's over $40,000, so we would receive at least another 20.
Not enough to build a bigger conference room or parlor, whatever we call it, I assume.
No, we received around a little over $45,000 the first time, so.
I was just kind of tying that back to what you were saying about when we're able to get back in person, and the size of that room is somewhat of a constraint. I think like Batavia Township, I guess, it just seems kind of, you're going to try to space people out unless, we get a resolution to this completely, which would be great, but.
That's true. But if we upgrade, I mean, we'll have to see, we might need a determination on whether our AV equipment improvements will be an eligible expense. Something else we're looking at is touchless entry. We don't have handicapped accessible doors now even. So if we could have touchless entry, we would also be able to provide handicapped access at the same time for our exterior foyer doors, as well as the doors into the meeting space. Then in the long run, we could also continue to look at our restrooms and touchless faucets and so on.
There's a
So
lot.
we're investigating all of that.
Okay. Is that pretty much all? You've gone through everything then you want to go through, Loretta?
Yeah, I just invite the department heads to if they want to say anything in more detail related to all their parts, because this is not just my work, this is everyone's work. And then they have additional work of their own, obviously.
John, I know you had some stuff in there with the, I guess, park stuff and the path. Do you want to comment on any of that?
As far as, we're going to repair a section over in, man, I can't think of the name of the road. It's part of Legendary. It's across from Royal Troon on Locust Corner Road. There's a section that we did not get to last year on the hiker biker trail that is pretty ate up with the roots from the trees. And we're going to repair that this year. But as far as the park paths that are going in right now with the county overseeing, the paths are all paved. They have a few odds and end things to do. They have to add some more dirt to the mound. They built the mound too close to the road, and there's going to be a sight distance problem with the trees that they planted as they get bigger. So they're going to move the mound back so that you have sight distance to pull out of there, because it's already hard. The sight distance is already bad enough looking to your right. You don't need it to your left also.
Gotcha.
So they're gonna have to take the trees and move those, John?
Yeah, they'll have to pull basically all the trees that are in the front line that are going down through there will be pulled and then put on the back side of the trees of the back line, which will make that the front line. But they have to add more dirt to the back side first to be able to do that.
When I was riding down through there last week, I said to my husband, I said, you give it a few years and those trees are going to be out over the road as close as they are. So they are moving those.
Yeah, they're technically about 8 foot closer than what they were supposed to be.
Wow.
Well, that's not good. That's not costing us extra money, is it?
No, that was the contractor's bad. So they're fixing it.
John, you talked a little bit about the Legendary path repairs, and then I know we got the park stuff going on. I've had a couple people from Legendary ask. I guess I don't know if there's a great path from the Legendary path that connects into the park. I think you can go through the like the parking lot of the golf course essentially, and there's a path that runs through there, but it's real overgrown and stuff. With all the money that we've spent on the Legendary path system and then all the park improvements in that path, and considering they're separated by a very minute amount of distance, do we have any plans to do anything with hooking those up in any way?
They are hooked up. You can get from East Legendary to our park. That is part of the hiker biker trail.
Where at?
If where the clubhouse is,
Yeah,
there's a trail that comes off that runs along. It'd be to the east, or well, be to the west of the clubhouse. There's a trail that runs down, and it runs straight up to the back of that ball field, of the baseball field.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think that thing is in bad shape.
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty certain. Like almost to the point where it seems like it's not even, and I believe it sits on the golf course's property. And I know about it. I mean, I know that technically is hooking up the two, but it's just I think it's in pretty bad shape. I think it's pretty.
Yeah,
If it's sitting on the golf course's property, that's the part I didn't, if there's any kind of easement there, or what the deal is with that.
well, I would assume that is the same as the rest of the hiker biker trail. If it's not part of the golf cart paths throughout Legendary, it would be our responsibility. And I don't think that that's part of it.
Maybe you could look into it a little bit and just make sure I know what I'm talking about, which is rare.
I think I know where you're talking about. It's literally right behind our shop.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And part of it is a golf cart path, and part of it is just ours.
Precisely.
I would assume that the golf cart part would be Legendary Run's responsibility to maintain.
You might want to check it out, because I think after the golf cart part is where it kind of goes south.
Okay.
Not actually south, but it's not good.
Yep.
All right, let's see, what else? What other departments do we have? Craig, do you have anything?
Just the fire alarm system that Miss Roki spoke about. We did a phase of that, so we were having a problem with the portion that dials out. We were getting several false alarms. We discovered a problem with the phone line. So we were looking at several options. We ended up going with a different vendor than what we have had for a number of years, and reduced our monthly expense. I want to say we were somewhere in the ballpark of $60, $70, and we're down to like 40 now. It's a cell phone based unit, which is a lot more reliable. So we've got that taken care of. At some point to that piece, we'll have to look at replacing the fire alarm panel itself. But it's functional now. It's just old and obsolete, and we're going to get to a point where we won't be able to have it repaired. So that's something that we're going to continue to work on a little bit later on. We want to get the first problem taken care of. As far as Amelia, we started doing fire inspections throughout Pierce and Ohio Township, and we've added the businesses that were formerly in the village. So I don't have numbers for those yet. We're still working through a number of inspections, re-inspections, trying to make contact with business owners and get that information, and working on wrapping up fire hydrant maintenance. So I should have those added numbers to you in the near future. That's all I have, unless you have any questions.
All right, thanks, Craig. Any other comments on the work plan? All right. So next on the agenda is Senate Bill 4 discussion eligible road projects.
Yeah, so I think that most of you are aware of the Senate Bill 4. There were several items covered in that, but one that's most relevant to us, and Anderson Township, I think, was instrumental in drafting this language to be included, is that it permits up to 25% of your TIF fund balance to be used for road improvements and certain safety items. That one is not very well fleshed out because it seems to mimic a lot of things that are already covered under the CARES Act. But road improvements are quite a burden for all the communities. And that is something in particular I think is worth our consideration. And then related to that, we know that we have our resurfacing project that has been bid. We know what the cost of that's going to be. We know that we have the Bradbury Road improvements to be done. And we also know that the Cole Road erosion project was submitted for loan funds last year and we were not successful. So I propose that we look at funds that might be used this year because it permits use of those balances this year and next year. So depending upon what projects we want to consider, we'll have to then, I assume, come back to the trustees if we have a proposal for amounts to be put into each of these projects. But I'm prepared tonight to talk more about the Cole Road project in particular as it relates to our application for next year. But again, any amount could be authorized prior to you actually paying any bills for road improvements this year as well.
So we're talking about being able to use TIP funds for road improvements.
Correct. Up to
And
25% of your existing balance. So you'd really be looking at just your Kroger TIF balance and your Walmart TIF balances.
and how does the accounting work on that? Where does the money go? Does it go straight into the road fund or how does that work?
No, what you have to do, according to Anderson Township's fiscal officer, they have to create a line item in the TIF fund that shows that. So any funds that would be allowed to be taken out of this, so I think that really falls under the safety category. If you got CARES Act funding for it, and there was discussion of additional CARES Act funding that may come in the future, if CARES Act funding covers something, then you have to reimburse your TIF. But if it's just a road improvement, it's not going to be eligible for CARES Act funding anyway. So it wouldn't be a line that needed to be reimbursed, but they're just asking you to set up a separate line item for it within your TIF fund.
Okay, so we're talking about road improvements that we can use TIF money for that don't need to be reimbursed. The CARES thing is not a part of this. And we create an extra line item in our budget separate from that TIF to put the money over there and then it can be spent on road improvements.
It's just an expense line item you add to your appropriations from your TIF, right, Debbie?
Yes, it's just like if I needed to add salaries for that, or, you know, because each, like under Road and Bridge, it's got its own codings for different operating expenses or road and, you know, just different line accounts where payments would come out of.
I see.
So Loretta, is that, if it's the Walmart TIF that you took money and put into this line item, can that be used anywhere on roads within the township?
Yes, as far as I can tell, it does not have to be directly related to where that TIF is in the same way that the TIF funds are usually restricted.
Right.
But it has to be spent on road infrastructure. So when I look at the balances, for instance, if you were to take 25% of the current TIF balance, well, this was looking at the June 30th balance, you'd generate about $327,000. And then if you looked at your Kroger TIF, you generate about $72,000.
What's the price tag on the Cole Road deal?
Almost $500,000, unless with final engineering, it may end up taking some contingency out. So it might be something shy of that.
So we're still shy with all that a little bit, right?
Well, what I'm proposing is that we ask for OPWC money for half of it, that we'd ask for half of it in OPWC grant money. And then we would ask for 25% of it in loan and 25% of it we would put in cash. So $250,000 of $500,000 project would be ours, and 125 you could take out of TIF money, and 125,000 you could ask for 0% loan money. But if we come up with a 50% match on this application for it submitted, that's going to give us the most competitive position. And Alan can probably help me on this one.
Sure. I've been in and out, sorry. My internet connection is acting up tonight, so I can jump in wherever.
We're talking about the OPWC potential grant for the Coal Road project and how that would tie in with the monies that we would put up out of potentially the TIF money at Walmart.
Yeah, I mean, financially, I think, when you're looking at, if we're doing 50-50, that gets you extra points in the application process. And so if we're bringing something to the table, that ends up helping our cause. And then if a portion of it can be a zero interest loan, at that point, the cost of money looks pretty good.
So what's the deadline for submitting the OPWC application?
They've moved it up to October. So we have proposed that you consider the resolution on our new business agenda tonight.
Okay.
But we also need to have an understanding of the commitments that would be made, because Debbie, as the fiscal officer, will also need to authorize where we're going to get the money from, as well as the acceptance of the loan and where the loan repayment would come from.
All right.
There's still a couple of issues with Senate Bill 4 that haven't been ironed out. And I think, while Anderson Township has been a trailblazer in grabbing a hold of Senate Bill 4, largely because it helps them get out of putting a road levy on the ballot. There just are a couple of questions that I still have with regard to Senate Bill 4. And it has a lot to do with the repayment. If CARES Act comes through, there's still some questions about payment that I have not gotten a complete answer to. I've spent quite a bit of time today with the Ohio Township Association and yesterday with some folks in the Senate, trying to figure out, if we take the funds and put them into the local match, it doesn't have anything to do with our application. So I would recommend that we go ahead with the application. We can always pull the application back if we need to, if we find that it's not equitable. But CARES Act is still hanging out there. That the House and the Senate, as you know, have not been able to satisfy some serious problems that they have between the two versions of the next round of stimulus. And that's what's holding this up. The answer that I heard earlier today was that the CARES Act money that we've already received is not considered as part of any kind of a repayment package. It's the CARES Act that we might get moving forward, because apparently the House version of the stimulus bill, when it comes to CARES Act, they actually are flowing it not just to police and fire and safety services, but they're also sending it to our general fund. And so that's why the Senate put that language in, but that bill continues to languish. So I'm just a little leery of that, of having to pay that back. And the big question that I had was, if we were to take, say, $300,000 out of a TIF, and we received $50,000 from CARES, would we have to pay $300,000 back or $50,000 back? And I didn't get a good answer to that.
Pay it back into the TIF, Alan?
Correct. So I didn't get a satisfactory answer to that. I mean, not that they said no, or not that they said something bad. It's just no one knew the answer to that. Because a lot of townships that are not sitting on the kind of TIF revenue that we are. And so that was a question that nobody's asked. And so they were trying to figure that out. My view is that we would have to pay the $50,000 back, which would just simply mean that if we took CARES Act money, we would flow that straight into the TIF and put it back. But I just want you to be aware of that.
Do you think, though, that has to do with what the CARES Act money is approved to be spent on? So if the CARES Act money is not approved to be spent on roads, and we use this legislation only for road purposes, do you think it may then be exempt? Because that, I think,
Yes.
is the assumption of Anderson Townships.
Yeah. I think their assumption is correct on that, because if they just pass a bill that's similar to the previous CARES Act, and it just goes to safety, or to police, fire, et cetera, then I don't think you're going to see a payback scenario. But I think the Senate was in a hurry to try to get some revenue to the street so you can get some of these infrastructure projects moving. That they put this together, passed it, and they put a provision in there to pay the TIF back with CARES money, thinking that they would be equivalent, so that a community would have a $50,000 CARES Act, and then they'd have $10,000 they get out of their TIF. In our case, we're talking about 300,000, and quite frankly, a lot of the senators were surprised to hear that we had that kind of opportunity.
Would it be beneficial to us to pay for out of that TIF the resurfacing for this year? To then we would have the money from the gas tax that we were going from the gas tax fund to put towards the for later down the road for the match on the grant, so that it gets it out and gets it taken off right away, and it's not just sitting out there.
Mhm.
That I don't know if that would make things easier.
Well, what we have to do if we're gonna turn in an OPWC application, we have to show where that local match is going to come from, and so we will have to identify, what that local match looks like.
Well,
Go ahead. Sorry, guys.
you would be able to with the gas fund, with the gas tax, if you didn't take that money out for paving this year.
Yeah, I mean, we can move money in a lot of different ways. The good thing about using the gas tax money is that we know what it is and we know what it looks like, right, Debbie?
Right.
So the application that we would turn in would say gas tax revenue of X. So you wouldn't be standing on a slippery rock and have the Senate pull it out from under you saying, nope, we're going to do it this way.
Yeah.
So I kind of like that approach because it's solid. I would be interested to hear what Debbie thinks about that.
Yeah, we're going to have to sit down and we're going to have to go over these numbers and take a look at everything because, with all these other things we've got going on, with Bradbury Road and the Learning Center and everything, I need to sit down with you guys to go over what numbers you want me to look at, where you want me to go and take funds out. Because you guys have got my head spinning now. And it ain't funny. And I don't like it.
Well, unfortunately, that's the world we live in.
I know it is. I know it is.
And, we have to be somewhat nimble here.
Right. Because, all along, I know like the Walmart TIF money, I mean, when they did this Senate Bill 4, that kind of changed the whole, funding thing of what I was using, what we were going to use those funds for, I know it had been discussed for another fire police station up by Walmart somewhere. But the Senate Bill 4, like you said, Alan, it gives us a chance to use these monies, which we've not had the opportunity to use anything before.
Mhm.
And it just it's kind of sitting there, but it was promised for different things. And so we need to look at it hard. But I understand where you want to go. We do need to get Cole Road fixed and another $500,000. Whew. These are big numbers for me.
The only one comforting thing that I could say is that when the fiscal officer certificate is done, of course, the application process is this year. It still has to get ranked. We have to find out if we do or don't receive the grant funding. So we'd be committing to one way or the other. Like I said, if we ask for 125,000 in loan, if in fact it's as high as 500,000, and then 125,000 in cash funds. If you don't know what funds to use yet, you can name more than one fund. You don't have to say for the application exactly how much and where it's coming from. You can name that it may be TIF money, it can be road funds, and you can name more than one place that you might be drawing it from. So I think as far as being able to make the application, since the application documents don't have to be that refined, as long as we commit to the project. And if we can commit to coming up with a 50% match one way or another, because if we don't like this, we could put $250,000 all in loan and ask for that instead. It just depends on how much we want to try to keep that loan down. But we can put a number of different funds on the certificate to say that it'll be drawn from.
Mm-hmm.
Here's my thing about, I understand the 0% on the loan stuff, and I understand using that, but it scares me because we're going to obligate ourselves to have to pay that money back later down the road. And what happens when we have another road slip over the hill and we need another $500,000 or whatever, and then we're scraping for that money again later down the road. I don't understand why we wouldn't do a 50% match out of the, if we're able to use the TIF, why we wouldn't just pay for that right away.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's you know, and I know this doesn't have to be cited right now, but it's a bird in hand. You know what I mean? And I thought our road budget was the tightest of the budgets.
It is. It is.
And I tend to agree with John. You know, the notion of having stacking debt on top. I don't know. I mean, if we can get it from another source, I would lean toward that. But I need to take a look at a couple of other things. And so I think, you know, finally, Debbie, I think you and I need to sit down and kind of lay some stuff out.
That's what I'm saying. We need to sit down and figure this out because, you know, like right now I'm showing $1,368,000 in the Walmart TIF. The Kroger
How much was it? I'm sorry. Can you repeat that? I didn't catch that. It glitched on the amount.
$1,368,000.
Yeah.
Kroger TIF 334,182. So we need to, and I would, you know, I need to sit down with you and so we can go over this where I need to, because I hate playing this money game. And you got to remember, we've got loan payments that are going to be coming out next year for the Bradbury Road project. It's just mind boggling. And I keep worrying about where John's funds are going to come, you know, where he's going. Because we've been using funds out of the gasoline and MVL for, you know, small things. So this, I get nervous. I get really nervous with all this. And I want it right. And I don't want to say 2 years down the road, Pierce is in fiscal distress. I would not be able to handle that. So
don't worry, we won't put it there.
I just can't let that happen because it's my name that's on these checks, and
none of us want to put it in fiscal emergency. That's hopefully a consistent thread through Nick, Bunny, and me as well.
Right.
Are you around on Friday?
Yep.
Why don't I swing by Friday about 9? Does that work?
How about 9:30?
No, 9.
30.
9:30 is lovely.
You got to remember, I'm a retired banker, and this is my fun job. So
I see. No, not a problem. 9:30 is fine. I just wanted to give you crap.
It worked, Alan, it worked.
I'll do, 9:30 is fine. I'll swing by. We can sit down and go over some stuff. Loretta, do you have projections for the Prestwick TIF 1 and Prestwick TIF 2?
We do for one, especially since we've already received our first settlement. When do we receive the last settlement for the year, Debbie?
We should be receiving that very soon.
That's what I can't wait to see. I'm
Yeah.
hoping then, I mean, that's going to be an absolute number.
Mhm.
Chris Melman is working on the numbers for Prestwick TIF 2. I don't have yet.
Okay. So if we can, I mean, if we've got those, those will be helpful.
Yeah.
I think that we also need to get, because Prestwick TIF 1, the first half numbers were what, 46,000? Debbie?
Yeah, 45, 46, yeah.
So if second half is the same as first, we're looking at about 90,000
Yeah,
from Prestwick
Yeah.
in just the first phase, first year.
It's over 50, I think, for Prestwick. Actually, the first
you gotta
settlement
take
is over 53.
well, you got to take the fees out too. So,
Yeah, and I'm comfortable with being low.
yeah.
So we're $90,000 when the second half comes in. So we're probably going to be looking at about 80 or 90, probably a
was
little more than
projecting-
that.
With my budget, I projected about 86,000.
Yeah. So if we're at about $86,000 per year off of Prestwick 1, we'll be less than that, probably 60,000 on Prestwick 2. I'm just projecting. So these are just in my head numbers.
Ballparking.
Yeah, so what we'd have to do is get something from Brenda that would allow us to use Prestwick 2 money to flow into all the way down Merwin 10 Mile to Cole. And I think we can probably do that, but that's a question.
2022, though, is when the Prestwick 2 collections will come, isn't it?
Probably. So, but got to remember 2022 is not that far away. And if we were funded with the OPWC, I'm just spitballing. So just, don't hold anything solid, because we might shoot it down in 48 hours, right, Debbie?
Right.
So if we could flow that out, we could put it down there, because, okay, doing the sequencing, if we get an OPWC grant, if we're fortunate enough to get funded through OPWC, we wouldn't really be under construction until 21. And they don't require you to pay the loans back until after construction is over with. And so we probably wouldn't be starting our first payments until late 21 at best, if not early 22. So we would start, if you sequence that out, you start to see where some money could come from to pay for, again, there's some, there's some risk there, and we need to make sure that we're all comfortable with what that risk is.
Exactly.
We might have to make the first payment. We might have to make the first payment of a loan out of general fund.
Oh.
I'm just saying, Debbie, I just say it because, it's that's the risk. And if we're not comfortable with the risk, then we don't take it.
Right.
But everybody's got to hear it.
Yeah. You're
Alan?
good.
On Cole Road, we almost had to go all loan. If we would have been funded at all, it was going to be 100% loan last year. So that was scary. But our Bradbury, estimates were a little over $12,000 per year for
Now
25 years.
the fund amounts have gone up because they're fully funded for another 2 or 3 rounds of OPWC projects. So there is a little bit more money in the pot than we've had before. But again, you never know how competitive those rounds are going to be.
Alan, what kind of risk are we talking about if we make a payment out of the general fund? I mean, what is the chances that
Well,
it doesn't sound risky?
it's the risk is minimal, but it's there. And I think we always need to go in knowing what a risk might look like.
That's what
So,
I'm asking.
let's say we did a $500,000 project and we did it all with a loan. So $250,000 loan, that's about what we're looking at right now, Debbie, on Bradbury, correct?
Yeah,
So we'd be making a payment of, what is our payment right now on Bradbury is what, about 12 to 15,000?
15, yeah.
So
And we're
we would be
taking-
making, well,
And
sorry,
that
go ahead.
payment is coming out of Prestwick.
Right. So if we, if you assume that it's about the same amount, you'd be looking at about a 12 to 15,000 annual payment for 20 some years to pay off the Cole Road project, to pay off the loan portion of the Cole Road project. So that's about 12,000 a year.
I'm not going to be around here for 20 years. You got to remember that.
Right. But again, and I think our goal should always be to pay those things off as early as we can pay them off. And
Right.
so if if Prestwick is generating enough revenue above and beyond what we're using it for other things, we should use those funds to pay off early, because there's no penalty to pay off early.
That's a good thing.
So I would recommend that we always try to pay those things down as fast as we can. And so none of us are sitting on it 20 years from now.
I agree with you, Alan.
I mean, I'm not going to be around 20 years from now either. So.
Well, you don't want to strap a future board's hands
Correct.
with a
Right.
loan
No, you don't.
that we've put in place.
But it wouldn't be a bad idea, Debbie, for us to come up with a financial plan that we start to operate off of. That's maybe a 5-year plan,
Right.
and then operate off that 5-year plan to get
I-
it, to get everything paid. I mean, we don't want to carry debt. I mean,
No,
we just
we do
don't.
not.
We've been pretty good at that,
Yeah.
not carrying debt. And so I think that's what we should shoot for. So I don't know if that illustrated anything for you, Nick, or not, but that the risk would be that something happens with our TIF, it doesn't generate the kind of revenue we need to pay that $12,000 off. Gosh, I mean, the DTEs didn't they get filed, but the state doesn't get back to us in 2022. So we don't start collecting until second half 2022 rather than first half 2022. You see where that risk could be. So the first payment on the loan we may not be able to do it out of the TIF.
We're talking 12 Gs a year, right?
I mean, I'm giving you round numbers as I'm sitting here tonight.
Well, approximately.
12 to 15,000.
Right.
And then it's a zero interest loan, right?
Right.
Correct.
And how much are we getting in our savings account on our money?
Our interest,
Yeah.
very little. The interest rates are way down.
1%-ish.
Not even that. No.
Must be less, Alan.
Yeah.
No. In fact, the last month we got a service charge on our checking account because the interest rates were so low. So it's not helping us. The service charge is not helping us outweigh these interest is not helping us with the service charge. I mean, so I'm going to start looking at another bank if Fifth Third doesn't help me out.
Oh, definitely. What do we have? Like 8 million in there?
We have about 5 million in our general fund checking account. And then we have about $1.5 million in the savings.
I know.
There's no way.
You should be pulling a chunk off of that.
Oh yeah, I have contacted Todd Cooney, who is our commercial our person that we deal with in the commercial department checking. And I just checked my emails tonight since I got back, and I've not heard from him yet. So he will be getting another nasty gram from me tomorrow.
There's no way with that kind of money that we should be charged any service charge.
Let me know, Debbie, if you want me to help out at all with that.
Okay.
I'm happy to.
But yeah, I did contact him, and I have not heard back. But there's a bank on every corner.
Yeah, Debbie, it does provide us with opportunity. So on Friday, let's talk about that again too.
Okay, you got it.
I'll just chime in with a couple other positives. I mean, there's several ways you can run these scenarios, which one of which is that you could use a chunk of the Prestwick TIF toward Bradbury and take less loan up front. I mean, even though we're approved for a certain amount of loan on either one of these projects, if something changes and you decide to take less because you feel comfortable using funds from another source, you can always take less, even if you're approved for more loan. The other thing to remember is that we are going to be putting some TIF money into the general fund. After September, we'll be considering a resolution to do that.
It's technically not TIF money anymore. It
Correct,
used to be TIF
correct.
money.
Yeah, Pierce
But
Point.
it's a fund transfer you're going to have to make that's from a TIF fund. And then another scenario, you could relieve the general fund from park expenses if you wanted to use the Prestwick TIF money toward paying some of the park improvement bills. So there's
that's
several ways to
something,
look at it.
and that's something we should do. And I think Debbie, that we need to just lay that all out, because you don't want to double spend in the TIF.
No.
Right.
Now, I know there's a little building down on the riverfront that they did that on. Couple $100 million worth of building called a stadium.
The stadium.
Yeah, they overspent their TIF.
Well,
Because
I'm not going to allow that to happen.
counted it. Well, no, they got away with it too, by the way.
That's great. Well,
It
Yeah,
just
it's
didn't
crazy.
work out that well, huh?
Yeah.
that's not
So-
happening here.
So yeah, we've got to lay that out and see what percentage and how we can move money around. I mean, right now we don't have to make a payment on Bradbury because we haven't started the construction, and so we won't have to make a payment on Bradbury until next year. However, we do have revenue coming into Prestwick TIF now that could cover our revenue needed for park improvements. So that would soften the blow to any general fund concerns that we have there by using the 56,000 or so, or 50,000 or 46,000, whatever that number is. But that's what Debbie and I need to sit down and work through and kind of lay that out so that we've got it in a plan.
Yep. Thank you.
Maybe even if we actually get far enough, or if I pay attention enough, maybe we can start putting together a first draft of our 5-year financial plan.
Good idea.
But
Okay.
that's going to require an incredible amount of willpower on my part. Because I'm going to have to be, a squirrel.
I was gonna say, it couldn't be as much as it's required me to stay interested for the last 10 minutes.
Oh, ow. Killing me. Are you trying to tell me that I'm nerding out?
No, not just you. It's just the subject matter. It's me, not you.
Alan, where's your picture?
Oh,
They don't want us to see him.
No.
there I am.
Are you sitting there in your pajamas?
I am still as ugly as I've ever been. I'm
Are
not
you,
getting any better looking.
are you sitting there in your pajamas?
No, ma'am. I'm actually in pants and see, look, it's got
Oh, okay.
poor
Very
John.
good.
John's medicated and looking at us like, oh, they're crazy.
No medication, no painkillers. Didn't take a single one.
Okay, so I'll see you Friday at 9:30.
Yes, ma'am.
What-
9:30 it is.
I don't know, and Loretta might have to answer this, but if you guys don't mind, would I be allowed to sit in with
No.
that?
No, not you. You're going to be medicated. You're going to cause me to lose focus. I'll be like messing with you because you're on drugs.
Yeah.
No heavy lifting.
Right.
That would be cool. I think that would be a good idea.
Yeah.
I
'Cause it's,
just don't know because I'm actually off right now.
So's Alan.
Never stopped me.
and I need papers signed by you and Nick.
Okay, cool. All right. Then that's perfect. Then I'm coming in at 9:30, surrendering myself at 9:30.
Okay.
Let me know subsequent to that meeting, Debbie, I'm happy to spend whatever time's needed. If you want me to come in and go over things with you after that or whatever, just let me know.
Okay, appreciate it, guys.
But
Debbie, they don't get to go on vacation with you and me and discuss all of this, do they?
No, they don't.
Okay. Maybe in a year, Bonnie, then, when you guys.
look at, did you see that? Did you see that gear on John's arm? Jesus, raise that up again. Let's see that. You look like Barry
Bionic-
Bonds.
He's a
He looks like
bionic man.
He looks like Barry Bonds stepping into the batter's box.
Yeah.
Oh, don't talk about the Reds. Oh,
It's quite fun to sleep.
Okay, get them back online here, Nick.
All right, guys, listen, here's the deal. We've got it. What's the next step? We got to figure out if we want to put in this application for OPWC. Do we want to kind of decide on that tonight, or?
Well,
I think,
I wanted the resolution to be considered tonight. That's under new business.
okay, so Nick, hold on just for a couple seconds. I'm gonna nerd out again and then I'm gonna come back, okay? I'll stop.
Alright.
I think that we should go ahead and pass the resolution. They can start to put the application together and we can play with the money after the fact. And so I think we go ahead and say yes to, my recommendation would be to say yes to the resolution, allow them to turn in that application. We can always adjust the loan to funding, local funding ratio if we get the funding. If we don't feel like we're comfortable with it and it moves to the next round, we can always pull it off the table, right, Bonnie?
That's right. That's the way it works.
So, but let's not hold ourselves up. Let's go ahead. It is one, financially, it's, if we can get free money, we should always try to get free money. And
You can always go through that first round and see
Right.
how the grading goes and everything and see where you fall.
Right. So let's just go ahead. I would recommend that we go ahead with the resolution and then we can continue to do more due diligence and detail work over the next 60 days.
good deal.
So I would be in agreement as well. Do I have a motion?
Well, since I wasted your time on that, then I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Is this a motion, hold it, is this a motion to proceed to the resolution then?
Yes.
Resolution 2020-021.
And we're approving this resolution?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, in theory, we haven't voted yet.
Okay, and Bonnie second. And this is a resolution. Okay, Loretta, you want to read your resolution or?
Sure. This is a resolution authorizing the Pierce Township Administrator to prepare and submit an application to participate in the Ohio Public Works Commission State Capital Improvement and/or Local Transportation Improvement Program and to execute contracts as required.
Okay, so Alan made the motion, Bonnie seconded it.
Yes,
Okay, Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Mrs. Batchelor,
yes.
Mr. Kelly.
Yes.
All right.
Now I need to say that in anticipation of having to flesh out this application, that our goal is still for a 50% local match, whether it be all of that 50% being loan or some other configuration of funds. But to be competitive, I think our goal is to have 50% considered local.
I don't see any other way to do it.
All right.
Bonnie, do you think, if looking at other applications you've seen, that 50% looks pretty competitive?
In the past years, I think so, yes.
I lamented the other day about how it used to be 80-20 was good.
Right.
Just tell you, we are on extreme borrowed time on that.
I
So,
know. I don't see how we have any other choice, particularly
Yes.
with that project.
John, the meeting's Friday at 9:30.
I'll be there.
Not 9 o'clock, 9:30.
we'll be there at 9.
9:30. Okay, thanks, guys.
She's
All right.
testy tonight, guys. She's tired. I made her get up too early this morning.
Yeah,
That's
Hey,
not
but I don't think we voted on that yet, did we?
No, we didn't.
yeah, I did roll call.
Let's do it again, just for fun.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Mrs. Batchelor,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly,
The redundant roll call. Okay, so we've got Amelia Properties next on the agenda.
Okay, so we have appraisals for the vacant parcels in Batavia and Pierce Townships that we now jointly own that had been Amelia Village properties. So Batavia Township met and the trustees there agreed that there are certain parcels that are basically residential parcels that they would not object to reaching out to specific buyers for those particular residential parcels, either by approaching adjacent property owners or perhaps builders that are already building in those particular subdivisions. So that's the recommendation associated with those. Then there's some commercial parcels that have much greater value, and those are proposed to be listed with a commercial real estate agent. That is the approach that the Batavia Township trustees have suggested. And so our trustees need to be in agreement with that, or we need to have our own discussion about what we think would be the best approach. I have not heard any names of real estate agents discussed or any other ideas associated with that. I did talk to Tom Keating to make certain whether or not it was required for us to have a public bid process. And if the majority, not majority, if there's total concurrence among all of the trustees to negotiate with an individual buyer or individual buyers, that's permissible, but it has to be entirely in agreement of all 6 trustees for it to be done that way. Otherwise, you would need to advertise and take bids for the property sales.
So I took a look at some of the parcels that, particularly some of the residential parcels. They're relatively sizable parcels, particularly off of Sutton Way. And I noticed that the recommendation or the thought pattern for the other trustees was to talk to the neighboring folks to try to, see if they were interested in buying those parcels. To me, I almost wondered if it was more advantageous to move to the real estate agent approach, because like I said, when I looked at Sutton Way, I assumed that they were going to be given, some of the prices that we saw. I assumed that they were going to be small lots, and they are, but they're approaching half-acre size.
There's some challenges with some of those lots, though. They may not be buildable. So there are some of these concerns associated with the actual pricing that we probably have to have some conversation in executive session about if we talk about specific prices for these parcels. But I can tell you that the appraisal notes some challenges with certain areas.
I'm not fond of the idea of trying to work out some sort of a deal with somebody outside of an open process. I just feel like I just think it would be advantageous for us to offer these parcels out to anybody and see what we get. I feel a little uncomfortable about, working a deal with somebody and not at least offering it out to everybody.
I'm not a fan of that either. I mean, if it's totally unmarketable, then maybe, but if it's anything that's has any resemblance of marketability, then I think you're leaving money on the table if you don't drive up the demand a little and make sure it gets out there and, it's bid on in a sense.
Well, and even if we didn't, even if, like you said, Loretta, if, those parcels on Sutton are, terrible and we're not getting what we think that the value is off of them, we can always pull them down and work a separate deal with somebody. But at least everybody had an opportunity to know about the possibility they could buy it and come in and pay for it. I mean, that's just my view.
Well, it's fine, but what about getting a real estate agent involved on something that's not marketable and you got to pay him for nothing? The neighbor ends up buying it. It's like a landlocked piece of land or something.
Well, if it's a lower valued parcel anyway, you're not losing so much, especially if you're looking at a whole package of properties.
I'm just curious why the village ever owned them.
I think the developers either were finished with the project and didn't want to continue to hold those, so they gave them to the village, so the village would mow them, maintain them. Or the developer, for whatever reason, didn't find them usable themselves. And I see lots of parcels in the village that way that were granted to the village because they didn't have any value to the developer anymore.
You would have thought if there was a lot that they built a house on, the lot next to it wasn't big enough to put another home or wasn't, you know, good enough to be used, that they would have just included it with that other house.
That's true. I mean, when I look at like Sutton Way, you know, that's a cul-de-sac and they only built like 2 houses on the cul-de-sac. So, I mean, it just seems like a strange, I don't know. I don't get the developer who would want to buy 6 parcels or parcel it out for six or 7 homes and then only build 2 or 3 and then give the rest to the village.
I know, it doesn't make sense.
It could have had to do with the market at the time.
Yeah,
If
but
that
to bail
developer
out,
wasn't successful.
I don't know, strange.
There may be some of those parcels that could be consolidated if we wanted to go through that process, that could also make then the collection of them more valuable. If we did have an agent, we could put a minimum value, and if we don't receive the minimum value, then we take them back off the table.
Loretta, do you think that the Batavia Township trustees did this to make it a quicker process? That was the reason they wanted to do this? Do you know?
I can't say. I wasn't in the conversation.
The way I interpreted it is that you're right. It would make it a quicker process. In that if you're talking to the neighbors, you want to buy the lot next to you, you know, that's a quick, easy transaction. You know, sure, I'll buy it.
Sure.
And so I think that's kind of what they're thinking. And so, you know, makes it a quick and fast, process. On the other hand, if you had a real estate agent, you could do the same thing, knock on the door and the agent says, you want to buy it. So we're out a fee, but at the end of the day, we're not a land bank.
Well, Loretta's idea of putting a minimum on it, and pulling it back off the table with the agent if it doesn't reach that is not a bad one. I'm assuming it would be more expedient the other way, but you know, it serves twofold. You get some more money out of it if it works out, and I think it's more transparent.
And really the ones I'm referring to are, you know, they were the smaller fish on the list.
Do you feel comfortable with an agent handling the larger parcels?
Yeah,
I would think you'd have to.
I mean,
Great.
when you start, sorry, Nick, go ahead.
I said agree. That was big input there, Alan.
I'm sorry, I cut you off.
Zoom, the start Zoom.
I jumped in on the UG.
He's zooming.
I just, you know, I think that when you're talking about the larger parcels, that's exactly where you'd want to have transparency. You know, you don't want to, you don't want to make some backdoor deal and not let the public in on it, because you never know who might want to buy it.
True.
Well, the real estate agent does a lot of administrative work that staff doesn't have to. I would
Correct.
say.
Yeah,
So it has multiple benefits.
all right.
Is that what we're doing? Or is that what we go back to Batavia Township and
I
say,
recommend.
please suggest?
That's what I
So-
would, that's what I think anyway, but
I will plan to follow up with Adele on that and then also find out, and if you individually have suggestions for agents that you would propose. I haven't talked to Adele about whether they had anyone in mind at all. So that's another decision to be made.
Mhm.
Loretta, please explain to Adele the reasoning why we feel this way, though, so she understands how we came to this conclusion.
I will. I think that makes good sense.
All right. So if there's no other discussion on this topic, we will move on to new business. I think we already discussed number 1, new business, so we're hopping to number 2. John?
Yes. John Kohler requests a motion to participate in the Claremont County Engineers joint bid for street resurfacing in 2021. Initial response requested by September 11th. A resolution will be needed to authorize an agreement on a further agenda. Basically, is all that the county needs right now is a motion stating that we will be interested in joining them in their paving bids. And it could be a big benefit to us because it makes us have a larger number. Nick, I don't think we've done this in the past while you've been here. When I first started, the county used to do this and then they got away from it. But basically, they can tie, whoever wants to get on board with them can tie their paving program into it with theirs to help get us a lower rate on the blacktop. So they handle all the bidding process. They oversee all of that. I just have to give them the list of the roads and a kind of a preliminary amount of money that we're going to spend.
I think it's a great idea. I was disappointed when the county decided not to do it anymore.
Yeah, I agree.
So I would wholeheartedly support it, and I so move.
Need a second?
I will.
Roll call.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Ms. Batchelor,
Yes,
Mr. Kelly.
Yes.
Craig and I both have a motion that we need to add to this. I have a motion that I need approval on, and so does Craig. It's our work time contract that we have for the Affordable Cares Act's reporting, and it's $5,000, and it's just renewable, $5,071.50. I just need a motion to approve that payment.
Have a motion?
so move.
Okay.
Seconded.
Thank you. Mrs. Batchelor,
Yes,
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
and Mr. Kelly.
Yes.
Thank you. And now Craig.
Thank you. Sorry for this edition. I got a phone call about 4:30 today, which prompted this. So I request a motion to approve a payment to Horton Emergency Vehicles in the amount of $109,762.92 for the repairs and re-chassis of the 2017 Dodge ambulance, noting that this is the ambulance that was involved in the June auto accident. Otarma claim number OTR 02074-2A1. We've already received the funds from Otarma and Perso in the amount of $109,762.87.
Craig, it is my understanding that the actual amount is 92 cents.
Yeah, the original estimate was 5 cents off from what the total ended up being. And I'll
no,
pay the 5 cents.
And Craig got to the bottom of that right away. He jumped on that 5 cents.
And it's great because they had told me about 2 weeks ago we were looking at a month to 5 weeks. So they're waiting on some parts. They got them in, and I was a little taken back when I got called today that the ambulance is done and I can pick it up Friday. So I'm
Wow, that's
happy
great.
about that.
That's great.
So it just requires us to like vote yes.
Yes, sir. We've already received the check, and because there was the delay, Debbie and I talked, and we were just going to sign the insurance company's check over. But with the added delay, we are concerned about the check expiration. So unfortunately, Debbie deposited it like a week ago, and then they called today, which prompts us to get the approval.
So we could really screw up your plans here, right?
Yeah, sure, you could.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that. I'll make the motion, Greg.
She's doing that before
I want that ambulance back here.
she wanted to make sure I didn't screw it up.
That's right.
I'll second the motion.
What are you doing? Let's keep beating around the bush for a while.
Tired.
Mrs. Bachelor,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly.
Yes.
Thank you.
Guys.
If I could also add, I did hear back from Stryker. They completed the inspection on the cotton load system for that ambulance, and they did recertify it so it's safe to operate, which saved our insurance company $42,000, which I was pretty happy about as well. So we should be pretty well good to go. Once everything's satisfied, Otarma will work with the at-fault driver to recover whatever they've paid out, and it won't go against our claims experience.
Good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. All right. That concludes new business, other business, maybe just public comment. Do we have any other business? All right, public comment, open floor discussion. Anybody, *9 if you're on your phone to raise your hand, or the participant panel if you're on the computer. Got anybody that has any comments or input or questions? Let's see here. All right, Renee.
Hey, sorry, I kind of look ghosty, don't I? That's kind of weird. I just have a couple questions about the stuff in Amelia. Is when this goes up for sale, where does the money go towards? Does it then go back to whoever owns it now, or is that going to be put towards the debt?
I can answer that question.
Oh, good.
These properties were, per that first 60-day agreement that had to be taken care of, they were absolutely transferred in ownership to Batavia and Pierce Townships. And any assets that are sold or distributed, the 35%, 65% back to the townships.
Okay. So then none of that, so all the property, none of that money, or you guys just pretty much got all of our property, and then none of it's going to go towards any debt.
Correct. But we also got the right of ways, the parks, the cemetery.
Right.
It all came at the same time. So this is part of what all came at the same time as public owned
I
property.
think it's my understanding too, Renee, that is the pot. It's the pot of money. It's what's there. It's going to be used to pay off the debt, and what's left after all
No,
the stuff gets paid, right?
no, this is not associated with paying the debt at all.
No, I know, but I'm saying how the debt gets paid is essentially the pot of money that's being used for other things too.
That's under the control of the village still.
General fund, essentially. So there's other expenses in there that I'm sure you'd be opposed to it being spent on.
Are you asking me that question, or
No.
Loretta?
like attorney's fees for whatever's going on, you know what I mean? It's just money's getting burned up for other things too.
I'm well aware, well aware. And I think once, on the debt part, once the property taxes are going to be collected as well, I mean, I think there's going to be more than enough. I believe there's more than enough in the general fund at this point to pay off the debt. I think, and Tom's not on here, and I don't know if Loretta can answer this, but I mean, we found some really large discrepancies in the past 2 weeks of solicitors not having contracts per our charter. And I think that may be a problem once that council is seated. And it's something, Loretta, I'd like to kind of talk to you about. I don't know if y'all are allowed to talk to me without my counsel, but I think there's some things that are beginning to come down the pipe that may put a wrench in a lot of this that's going on as well.
Well, I'm not a lawyer, so
Me either, but I
I
feel like
can't
I can
answer in
practice
legal.
at this point.
they tell me not to practice without a license.
But I mean, I think it's some things that you know everybody should be made aware of that are not in the legal documents. I mean, these haven't been addressed, but you know, I feel that this needs to be brought to everybody's attention. And we're still working on records request. So I'm not really sure, you know, we haven't got what we've requested from the village, which is shocking. So I just want to make sure that everybody is aware, you know, before a decision is made to seek counsel. I don't want this stuff to be a surprise to anybody going forward, especially you guys. So I don't know if that's a discussion that I need to have with my attorney, or if anybody would like to, you know, reach out and know what we found up to this date.
I think what we would wisely do is defer to our attorney who's not here today.
Yeah, I saw that.
And we would recommend that we have that conversation to make sure we're not stepping on your court case and your legal counsel.
Right.
And so that would be the best way to move forward with that, with what you just requested. And then we could try to set up a meeting based on what's appropriate legally.
Okay. But, you know, like I said, I've always wanted to be, and I think you guys have been for the, you know, for the most part, straight up with us. And I feel that we owe you the same courtesy. And I think there's been enough shock and awe at this point to not continue that, you know. I just don't think it's favorable to anybody in this situation. So I will reach out to Matt, and maybe he'll reach out to Tom. I don't know if they've had a conversation about this, but I will do that so that you guys.
I would feel very comfortable if you did it that way.
Okay.
And that way, Matt is, you know, Matt knows these rules way better than I do.
Yeah, well, that's why he's my attorney.
Right. And so yeah, I mean, if that, you know, if you could just do it that way, that would be best. And then we can then sit down and chat.
Okay, because I would love to do that as well. So that, Loretta, I don't know if you can answer. The one property that we had a question about was the one on the street behind the police station, that they made a road through there and
Off
to
of
that
Maple?
house.
The house off of Maple with the garage.
Yes.
Mhm.
We have,
Those properties that have structures on them are not part of this appraisal.
okay, so this is not including anything on 120, like the admin building or anything like that. These are just vacant parcels at this point.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect. Because I know at one time we did try to sell the Morse house, and that went over like a lead balloon too, because it's not, nobody can fix it up. It just needs to be torn down. So that's all I have. I thank you guys for your time again.
No problem.
Why can't it be fixed up?
Thanks, Renee. All right. Let's see here. Anybody else? Star 9 on your phone, participant panel. Anybody else have any comments, input? I'm not seeing anyone. All right. So We're going to go ahead, and I'm not exactly sure how we're going to do this, but go into executive session to discuss the employment and compensation of a public employee. So Eddie, are you there?
Yeah. So what I was gonna say was we can do a breakout room, and so everyone else who wants to kind of be in the room and come back to this hearing, for example, they can stay here in this meeting, but everyone who's going to go into the executive session will go into. I will send them into the breakout room.
So you send them, they don't have a choice, or how do we work that on our end?
Well, I'll send whoever wants to discuss the executive session into the breakout. Everyone else would just stay.
So
Okay.
Nick needs to designate probably who's invited to the executive session of the trustees.
Which
Yeah.
was the breakout room. So how do I do that? I just invite?
Well, if you just tell me who all is going to be in the meeting, like if it's all the trustees, Debbie, Loretta, and that's it, or however you want to do it.
You got it. Yeah. All the trustees and Debbie. Loretta, right?
Yes, I mean, do I go now or not?
No, it's just the trustees and Debbie to start.
Now, so since this will be the first time we've done this where I'm not also in the room. So worst case scenario, we'll just be here and everyone will just sign back into this room to this public meeting. But otherwise we'll just be sitting here.
Got it. Let's roll. For anybody who's in the meeting now too, I don't believe we have any other discussion going on when we get back out. So, I mean, you can stick around if you want, but. Oh, there's the breakout room. Awesome. All
We
right,
have to join.
join it. No, I got to assume we can come back, or we're lost in the breakout room for eternity.
Yeah, it's like you guys are going into like outer space or something here. So good luck.
All right, I'm joining. I'll see you there.
We have to join.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Hey, Loretta,
Yes.
they're asking for you to come in now, so I'm going to send you over.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
I felt threatened, so I ran away.
We're here, Alan. I don't know where they're at.
They're still stuck in the room because
I think so.
they're still following Nick.
I just went down and hit the breakout room down at the
Well,
bottom.
I hit the wrong button, so I had to come back in the back door.
Oh,
So,
okay. Because if you just go down the bottom down there, it says breakout rooms.
yeah.
You just click on that. It says leave breakout room 1, and you go back to the main screen.
And away we went.
Yep.
But I still don't see Bonnie, and I still don't see Nick.
Nick or Loretta.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
I second it. Oh, there's Nick.
Wait a minute.
We already adjourned.
All right.
I felt threatened in that room, so I ran out.
Well, it was quite a hostile environment.
I was able to dry my eyes and I got back on.
Oh.
All right. Well, Bonnie, you're muted.
Alan, did you make the motion to leave executive session?
I sure did.
Okay. Thank
And
you.
if I recall, Bonnie seconded it.
I did second it.
Okay.
We can hear you now. You're in, Bonnie. All right.
I was using sign language.
That'll work.
I got it.
It's not the kind of sign language I'm accustomed to.
You ain't seen nothing yet.
Hi, Craigo.
Now you know
All right.
why I ran out of there.
Hello.
So if there's no other discussion, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Seconded.
Okay. Thank you.
Roll
Mr.
call?
Bachelor,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
now we're all gonna go down to Alan's and watch Alan or get punched by Nick.
Okay.
And just to recap, Debbie, you and I have a meeting at 8:45 on Friday.
Oh,
9:30.
7 a.m.
9:30.
I would recommend if she's going to be there at 9:30, you get there at like 9:15 just so you can scare her. It's actually hours of
Oh, Craigo.
I'll hide in her office or something.
Oh, you should have seen Craig jump out of the closet one day and scare the heebie-jeebies out of me.
Dear God, what are you trying to do? Kill her?
Yeah.
Well, when you scare her, she swings and kicks and yells, and it's actually kind of funny.
They're
That's
so
not
mean. to
funny.
me.
I could get hurt.
Yeah, they're mean
I
to
could get
me.
hurt. Did we lose
Okay.
Nick?
I think
Nick already
Craig's
bailed.
got bruises on his arms from
good
me.
night, everybody. Good night, John Boy.
Good night.
Good
See
night.
y'all.
9:30, Alan.
9:30. I'll see you there.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Blue.